So when we say women have always worked, when we say it about white women, we're saying one thing through time. When we're saying it about black women, we're saying something else. So even though we say things like, you know, a far larger proportion of African American married women have been in the labor force through time, we are also saying that the middling sort of black women have also worked at civic responsibility through time, that the job of educating themselves and their children is being part of women's work. So we mean something a little
different. And, you know, it's work, which is so often associated in this barest sense, right, with manual labor. It's mostly intellectual work and civic work, which is also so critical. So yes, you're exactly right that black women have always worked, but how they worked, it's important to make some distinctions about that and to understand. And also, and I don't want to give the impression that poor women did not have ambitions to be icons of domesticity. Some of them no doubt did, because after all they had worked in white homes and they saw all these things that one could have. But I think that maybe unlike middle-class black women, poor working-class black women, and here I'm talking about, say, for example, a poor woman who works on a cotton plantation in 1920s Mississippi. She wants and does come home to a cabin that's neat and clean, and maybe it has some little starch doilies to make the place pretty. But her ideology, her thinking around this question of uplift and domesticity has to be different from a black woman who's grown up in New Orleans or Philadelphia or Boston, a middle-class black woman for whom that is part of their identity. I think that a poor black woman in Mississippi is not thinking, if I have a bed unmade today, white people are going to hate me. I mean, you know, or they're going to like me less, and that I have to do this in order to convince white people that I deserve to be treated equally. Whereas for a middle-class black woman in Boston, that made bed was really like a key piece of this dialogue with white people, to say that we are like you.
But I would think the made bed for the poor woman, the poor black woman, would also be a question of dignity and self-esteem.
It would. And I think, and I learned this firsthand from living around as a child, spending summers with rural women, that, you know, these things were, I mean, a clean house was like, you just, something you just didn't mess with. That was to be taken for granted. You know, that your home was like a dewdrop inn was the way in which they always talk about, well, you know, my house is like dewdrop inn. And so yeah, it was a question of dignity, but that dignity or desire for dignity was not as correlated, I think, with a desire for white affirmation, maybe, as it was for middle class.
Right.
Yeah.
That's an interesting distinction. So for poorer women, it was associated simply with a desire to feel good about oneself,
right.
You know, to feel as though one could be a person in the world.
It's just like when I talk about clothing, you know, like when I read about a woman who, when freedom came, she bought some fabric to make herself a dress and to many a historian, that would seem like a foolish thing to do, to be the first thing you do when freedom comes, instead of like taking that 50 cents or a quarter and putting it up to buy some land. But for her, it was so expressive of this newfound freedom that she no longer had to wear a hand-me-down dress. She no longer had to wear a dress that her master and mistress bought the cloth for, and it was some ugly cloth, and it didn't fit. And to me, that's just as important for these people. That the little things count when we get up every day.
It is amazing, actually. That parallels the experience of immigrants who come to the States with their old world clothing, and almost the first thing they do when they can afford to do it is to dress or buy a dress, an outfit that turns them immediately into an American, and
into an American and into
a person,
a free person,
right? A free person,
right?